Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. Joining us right now from Washington, D.C. is the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. He's also the author of the new book, Breakout, Pioneers of the Future, Prison Guards of the Past, and the Epic Battle That Will Decide America's Fate. You can also catch him on CNN's Crossfire, where he is a co-host. As always, Newt, it's great to have you with us again.
Well, it's always good to be on Newsmax.
All right, so here we are, 50 years after President Johnson declared a war on poverty, and you recently wrote about this. A half century ago, Johnson said, quote, "The richest nation on earth can afford to win it," the war on poverty. "We cannot afford to lose it," he said. Despite that, you say we've lost it just like Ronald Reagan did a few years ago. But why does poverty keep on winning this war?
Well, let me say, first of all, I think it's very important to recognize that this is the 50th anniversary of Lyndon Johnson's State of the Union declaring the war on poverty. It's also the 50th anniversary in October of Ronald Reagan's first great national speech, A Time for Choosing, in which he outlined almost exactly the opposite philosophy. And we now have a 50-year track record. When we have followed principles of hard work, low taxes, limited regulation, encouraging small business, encouraging people to learn and to get a job, it's worked dramatically. During the years that the Republicans were actively involved, when I first became Speaker, we worked on things like welfare reform, capital gains tax cut, economic growth. We actually helped 5.5 million people leave poverty in that period, while under Obama, 3 million additional people moved into poverty. So I think what you've learned is that big government can't solve the problem of poverty because it has exactly the wrong tools and exactly the wrong principles. And I think it's important for conservatives to be actively involved in trying to find ways that work to help Americans, all Americans, have the right to pursue happiness. And I think that it's important for us to take the moral responsibility of arguing on behalf of the poor, but to have the courage to stand up to the left and insist that we look, why after 50 years and $16 trillion did big government fail?
Now, despite 50 years and $16 trillion, I've heard numbers as high as $20 trillion as well. The Democrats seem to be moving to the left on this issue. We hear it from the White House, and you use Bill de Blasio's inauguration speech and his comment about soy lattes to highlight this. Let's play a clip here of de Blasio from his inauguration.
"We will ask the very wealthy to pay a little more in taxes so that we can offer full-day universal pre-K for every child in this city, and after-school programs for every middle school child. Those earning between $500,000 and $1 million a year, for instance, would see their taxes increase by an average of $973 a year. That's less than $3 a day, about the cost of a small soy latte at your local Starbucks."
Let me ask you, de Blasio talking about raising taxes on the wealthiest people in New York, what should he be talking about, not the stuff that you mentioned, but what should he be talking about as a Democrat to solve this issue?
Look, as Congressman Majority Leader Eric Cantor has pointed out, Mayor de Blasio is going in exactly the wrong direction. We know that school choice, that charter schools, that opportunities for parents to have a role in their children's education is working. It's working in New Orleans, it's working in Philadelphia, it's working in Washington, it's working in New York. And we know that Mayor de Blasio, paying off his teachers union allies, is going to adopt very strong anti-parental choice, anti-charter school positions. Exactly the wrong direction if you want to help poor children learn. But there's something deeper. Remember, the war on poverty was a great success if you were a bureaucrat. The war on poverty was a great success if you were a bureaucratic employees union, because they were the big winners. They got the money, they got the jobs, they got the power. So they're very happy to expand their empire, even if it doesn't help the poor.
Now this seems to be the issue, the first issue that's really kind of the battle line in the 2014 election cycle. I want to play a clip also here of Senator Marco Rubio talking about poverty.
Now, in the coming months, I'll be detailing many of these ideas, and I hope that you will join me in that discussion so that 50 years from now, nobody in America will be trapped in a life of poverty.
What's your take on Rubio choosing to address this issue kind of head on like this?
Well, I'm glad that Senator Rubio is addressing the issue head on. I think every conservative in the country should address the issue head on. First of all, for a moral reason. we're the ones who say, and the Tea Partiers are the strongest, that our Declaration of Independence says we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we're the ones who said every American has the right to pursue happiness. Well, if they're trapped in poverty, if they're trapped in ignorance, if they're trapped without a job, if they're trapped in a dangerous neighborhood, they don't have their rights as Americans. I think we should be the leaders, the champions, of helping every American rise, helping every American have a better future. And we should say the answer to inequality is to level up by having everybody get a better job, a better income, a better future. The left wants to level down by taking away from one group to give to another.
Now, Rubio says he wants to repeal Obamacare, provide more affordable health care, save and strengthen our retirement programs, create a new, quote, new opportunity to society in America. Those are all things, we've heard before from Republicans. Rubio also says he's going to be, laying out his plans. Here's when he talks about that. He says that 50 years from now, no one will be living trapped in a life of poverty if the nation moves to the right. Now, if Rubio is going to lead on this issue, on poverty, income inequality, etc., however you want to phrase it, what specifically do voters need to hear from him as he lays out those details?
I think we need to lay out plans that create a clear choice. We need to show you how we would help improve the life of people. One of the factors is that very expensive big city governments make life more expensive for the poor. The same number of dollars buys in New York City about half of what it buys in Fort Worth, Texas. So if you're a family on a very limited income, you have twice the purchasing power in Fort Worth, Texas, that you would have in New York City, because New York City has become so expensive. And a lot of that expense is big government unions who have raised the cost of doing everything, created work rules that are expensive, and limited the choice of people. So I think we should stand for a lower cost of living combined with a higher take-home pay, and we should stand for small businesses being able to create jobs everywhere, including helping people get off unemployment by creating their own businesses.
And so one thing you hear coming back from the left is what would this country look like if we had not spent that $15 to $20 trillion over the last 50 years? What would poverty look like without food stamps, Medicaid, and Medicare?
Well, the fact is that prior to the war on poverty, we had more children growing up in families with both parents. We had more families rising from poverty. We had much greater social mobility. And I think it's fair to say that one of the big side effects of the war on poverty has been actually trapping people in poverty, creating barriers to their rising by giving them just enough things to be dependent on that it's very expensive for them to give that up. If you've got food stamps and public housing and various other welfare programs, and you're in a situation where you've got Medicaid and you've got school lunch programs, etc., if you were to go out and get a job, you have to get a really good job to actually improve your standard of living, because we've now given you so much stuff. This is a huge disincentive to people learning to work and learning to rise.
Now, there are two huge issues in Congress right now that are still undecided. We got the extension of the unemployment benefits, which has passed the Senate. Now it's in the hands of House Speaker. And there's also this farm bill, which is sitting out there. How does the GOP need to approach both of these issues without being cast as the party, the cruel party, the party that wants to take things away from people and leave them out in the cold?
Well, I would favor extending unemployment insurance if we tied it to a work training program. We now live in an age with the Khan Academy and Udacity and Kaplan and all sorts of online learning, the new Google Help Outs program, for example. And there's no reason, if we're going to give you money so that you have all week free, for us not to ask you to spend a good bit of that week learning and improving your job skills, improving your marketability. You give people 99 weeks of unemployment compensation. That's long enough to get an associate degree. And it seems to me that unemployment compensation could become the largest worker training program in the world if we redesigned it. So I'm willing to help people, but I want to help people in such a way that they end up helping themselves. And I think that's a very important part of how we should approach this and how Republicans should think about it.
We'll hear a lot more about this issue from now until the election, I can assume. And by the way, Newt, I liked your visual aid there on the set of Crossfire with the cups. That really
that
brought
was fun.
home.
I mean, when I heard this small soy latte line, I thought, this is unbelievable. Here's a guy who's so funny talking about the weak, inadequate approach of modern liberalism, that you can't actually make fun of him any more than except by simply quoting him.
Yeah, kind of played into your hands there a little bit. You can catch Newt on CNN's Crossfire. He also has a new book out, of course, called Breakout. Newt, as always, great talking with you.
Great to be with you.
And thanks for watching Newsmax TV.